Morning, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Nehemiah 2. Nehemiah chapter 2 it's an interesting chapter, right? Because Nehemiah found out in chapter 1 that Jerusalem's not doing so well, and he kind of gets it laid on his heart that he needs to do something about it. And so in chapter 2 we see Nehemiah come before the king, and he's not really, he hasn't really been sad in front of the king. He hasn't really loathed any of this. He hasn't really, lamented any of this would be the better word. And so the king still catches him and says, "Hey, man, why are you sad?" And this was a big deal because if you bring the king's mood down in this day and age, you could very well, be unalived. So it scared him. It shocked him. But Nehemiah took courage, and he let what was on his heart out, right? He was cupbearer to the king, King Artaxerxes, and, he let it out. He aired it out, saying that, how could he possibly be okay when the city of his father's graves, is in ruin. It's rubble. How can he possibly be okay? And so the king asked him, "Well, what do you want me to do about that?" And he said, "Well, I would ask that you write letters to different people here and there so that I can get different materials, and I would like to rebuild the city." Right? It's also an important little side note that the queen was right there. This would have been Queen Esther, right? So, which would have been the mother of Artaxerxes, right? With Ahasuerus, the former king. So, just a little historical tidbit for you. So Nehemiah rides out. He strikes out, gets these letters in hand. And the first thing that he does is he goes to Jerusalem and he inspects all of the gates and the entire wall. He doesn't do this by day, though. He does it under cover of night because he fears that, there will be opposition. And boy, is he right. If you know the book of Nehemiah, man, there's some opposition there, right? Ezra's already faced some, but Nehemiah is going to face more. So Nehemiah inspects all the walls, and the people come out. He meets the people. He rallies the people. He says, "Hey, God put it on my heart to build this city, to rebuild this city. And that's just what we're going to do. So take heart, take courage." And he tells him, he gives his testimony of how he stood before the king and argued for God. And the king, who was not a Jew, right, said, "Okay, yeah, build it. Let's do this." Right? And the people took courage with that. So, it's one of those things. Like, an encouraging testimony is a very powerful thing. Very powerful thing. And we just don't hear enough of them in today's age for some reason. Don't know why. We just don't. So they start building, and then right at the end of chapter 2, we see two really, I won't say important. I mean, they are kind of important, but they're more infamous than famous guys in this story. Tobiah and Sanballat. They are going to be the opposition. They are going to be the anti-heroes in this entire story. They are opposing Nehemiah the entire time, and this is the first time we really see them. And they come out and they taunt, right? They jeer at him. They say, "What are you guys doing? Are you going to rebel against the king?" And Nehemiah just brushes them off at first. He barely acknowledges their presence by saying, like, "God put it on our hearts to rebuild this wall, and that's just what we're going to do. Shut up and go away. Get out of here." Right? So Nehemiah chapter 2 is a really good story. There's a lot you can take away from it between, the encouragement of, putting what you have or what God has laid on your heart out there, right? And then giving that testimony to other people and them finding an encouraging word to that, right down to the opposition, right? There's a bunch you can take out of the whole book of Nehemiah, but chapter 2 is a pretty big part of that. So I would highly encourage you to go read it. Love you guys. Have a great day.